if this prosecution is successful in terms of convicting these men, that it would dampen people's willingness to politically protest in the future?
100%. Yeah, I mean, we saw that in Ottawa. We saw it, and well, obviously Coutts. Yeah, 100%.
We are going to win. God is in charge of this, and we are going to win this.
Yes, the dreaded publication ban strikes again. Those of you who have been following our reporting on this trial may be rolling your eyes now hearing this term again. Chris Carbert and Anthony Olienick are sharing 3 charges. The first is the accusation from the Crown that they conspired to murder police officers during their participation in the 2022 Coutts protest and blockade. The second charge is that they unlawfully possessed firearms for a purpose dangerous to the public peace. And the third charge is that they committed mischief, inducing damages valued at over $5,000. Lastly, Anthony Olienick has a unique charge. He's accused of unlawful possession of an explosive device for a purpose contrary to the public peace. All charges against these 2 men relate to their participation in the 2022 Coutts protest and blockade, which was a civilly disobedient and peaceful demonstration aligned with the Freedom Convoy around the same time in opposition to this governmental apparatus of surveillance and control marketed as a public health measure to reduce COVID-19 transmission. I just want to share some context and background as to the judicial rationale for these bans. All proceedings that occur in the absence of the jury are not meant to be seen or heard by the jury. So if we in the news media are to report on these proceedings, the information within those proceedings could, in one way or another, get into the minds of the jurors and therefore affect their decision-making when they need to render a verdict. Publication bans also apply to pretrial proceedings, which of course occur in the absence of a jury, given that pretrial proceedings come before jurors are selected and prior to the empanelment of the jury. Proceedings can occur with the jury's absence for the purpose of, for example, evidentiary disputes. Suppose, for example, that the Crown seeks to enter in certain information as an evidentiary exhibit. There may be a dispute between the 2 parties over the veracity, the accuracy of this proposed evidence. One or the other side may seek to introduce a particular witness, and there may be disputes over the relevance of that witness. There may be disputes over the propriety or legality of the acquisition of any information that seeks to be sought into the trial as evidence. There may also be disputes over whether or not a particular witness can be introduced into the trial and qualified as some sort of subject matter expert of relevance to the trial's proceedings. So these are the sorts of things that are covered by a publication ban to ensure that jurors do not consume information that they're not meant to consume. One thing I want to share with you folks that became very apparent during yesterday's proceedings is how almost all of the RCMP's evidence introduced into this trial via the Crown focuses on Anthony Olienick and not Chris Carbert. We have thus far seen 3 female RCMP undercover operators, UCOs, testify as witnesses for the Crown. And in terms of their testimony to direct evidence, statements they attributed to one of the defendants that they say they heard firsthand, it was essentially entirely from Anthony Olienick. It's basically the Anthony Olienick show. According to the testimony, the claims from the 3 female RCMP UCOs, Anthony Olienick had this expectation of violent confrontation with law enforcement. He expected to have a sort of gunfight with cops in the context of his participation in the Coutts protest and blockade. According to the 3rd female RCMP UCO, Anthony Olienick described the Coutts protest and blockade as, quote, a war he might not survive and that he might die for this. She also said Olienick said the Coutts protest and blockade was, quote, a war he was meant to fight. All the 3 female RCMP UCOs testified that Olienick used this term war to describe the nature of this protest. According to the second female RCMP UCO's testimony, Anthony Olienick said they should all be hung. That's a quote, they allegedly being a reference to police officers. According to the first and third female RCMP UCOs, he apparently made this motion where he drew his thumb from one side of his neck to the other and said that they should have their throats slit. According to the first female RCMP UCO, they was a reference to police officers. The third female RCMP UCO, who said that she observed that slit throat motion, said she was not sure who Anthony Olienick was referring to when he made that movement.
I just feel, just like many others, that there's a great injustice being done here to these guys. And I personally want to come down and witness this and see what's going on. And I think that the awareness needs to be out there, and I think everybody needs to step outside their comfort zone and come and join us so that we can actually witness a part of history, because eventually we are going to win.
Yeah, I think the government's involved in this. And I think at the federal level, they have their fingers in this trial, trying to manipulate things and use this guy's some sort of pawn, I guess.
If we don't advocate for people who have been wrongly charged for things, then anybody, it could be me, could be you, could be your child or grandchild, could be in a similar circumstance, and we may never, ever be able to get out of it.
We have people who have different views, period. That's it. And we should be allowed to express those views peacefully, of course. And that's not being, that's going to be dampened by these, if this is successful, by this court case.
Do you think there's a political aspect to this prosecution, a political dimension to the motivation behind the selection of these men to be charged with these crimes?
Oh, I definitely think so. I think this has been a setup personally. I just think that because of the fact that they didn't expect so many people to stand up, I think they basically chose 4 people. And I think that through the government, the RCMP and everybody, I think that this is it's just not just. And I think that for these families and the friends of these people, I am devastated for them, and my heart just aches even just talking about it. I have a great faith in God and what God's going to do, and so I don't fear any of this stuff. I think it's important to be a part of this, and also to use your words wisely when you're speaking with everybody so that it resonates with them, and at some point, hopefully, it's going to put a light in their heart.
If you folks hold the perspective that this trial is a matter of deep importance to Canadians and relates directly to our right, our freedom to demonstrate peacefully against our government, then understand that we can't do this journalistic enterprise for free. We have operational costs. In my case, that means getting me out here from Ottawa, airfare, car rental, Airbnb, consumables, not living a life of luxury, but still not free. And we depend on our generous audience to keep this engine going. So please visit truckertrial.com, contribute, and stay up to date with our ongoing coverage of this trial.